everybody. Tom Esch here, president of Esch Consulting in Minnesota. Welcome to the Case for Construction Culture podcast, balancing safety and profitability. We have a very unique guest today, everybody. I'm super excited. Lexy Frechette, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Let me just introduce you properly here. I met Lexi when you were working with the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, and you helped me find my way to Las Vegas at the ConEx ConAg program where I was able to speak. That was great. And you are now working full time for Informa Connect as a conference specialist planner for about a year and a half. And you work for the HIMSS conference, correct?
That is correct.
But not the Viagra hymns, the health and wellness hymns.
That is correct. Not the Viagra.
Okay, I'm glad we cleared that up right away. That's really good. You also have your own business, if people don't know, which is Lispire LLC. You're president and CEO, and you've been doing that for about a year, correct?
That is also correct.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy again to have you, Lexi. You're so positive, you're so energetic. I was just saying, you're not a safety pro, you're not an owner of a mid-sized construction company, but you've been in and around construction, talking to a lot of people like me, hiring people like me to come speak about our expertise, which is safety, communication, culture stuff. So I would love your take on it. But welcome all the way from Kenosha, Wisconsin. How are things over there today?
Kenosha's great. It's a little gloomy, but hoping that the sunshine comes out soon again.
Awesome. Well, you always bring a ray of sunshine to my world, Lexi. You always have, and I will appreciate you forever for that. They say you never, you may not remember what people say, but you remember how they made you feel. And I know you make me feel a little happier and brighter, and that's awesome gift you have. But let's talk about culture. It's a huge word. It's thrown around a lot. I'm sure you've hired lots of speakers like me who come talk about culture this or culture that, or and we have some common friends who write and think and train and talk a lot about culture in construction. When I just say that phrase, what comes to mind for you? What do you think it is? How do we talk about it?
Yeah, so culture for me is really just the experience that one has within their even their home, but to their professional lives as well. And so that can be anything from what you're wearing to maybe your interactions with others to maybe even just like your daily interactional life, because sometimes you can have like really positive experiences, or sometimes someone is just, everyone has a bad day every once in a while. And so that is part of culture. People think culture is like a big long term thing, but sometimes you can still think of culture as a daily aspect as well.
Hmm, interesting. So and by the way, I rarely wear a suit in my world, but I gave a keynote this morning and I had to dress up a little bit. It was not in construction, but yeah, culture is one of the best, simplest definitions I've heard, and I don't know what you think of it, is that's the way it is around here. Like, what's culture? I asked a guy, a laborer in construct, what is culture to you here? Well, culture is the way it is around here. And I thought that was pretty good.
It's pretty simple. I mean, that is probably one of the most to the point definitions I think I've heard, which is perfectly perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And can include the way you dress, the what you talk about, what the leaders allow others to talk about or promote others to talk about and do. It's a complex, interesting thing. And what have you learned about construction culture and all the work you've done with AEM and your own work, working with professionals and subject matter experts? Have you picked up some things or heard some things, or what's your impression of what they're saying about culture, what they're saying also about safety? And, how often were you hiring people talking about culture and or safety in your world?
I think culture is still a hard concept for some people to pick up in the construction world.
Hmm.
Um, Personally, how I feel is that the stigma behind culture and also mental health isn't talked about as much in the construction world. I think it's because a lot of the construction world is still owned and operated by men. And men have this stigma of not talking about their feelings, which is okay. You don't have to talk about your feelings,
Yeah.
but you should at least be able to acknowledge that, and acknowledge what's happening around you. And so that's kind of part of that culture aspect. And so I think the newer speakers that I have worked with personally, they're more in tune with their feelings and how like they can talk and communicate about them. And the older folks, it's just a generational thing. I think that they're more stigmatized to don't talk about it. Let's just move on. And so that's also what comes into play too when they talk about whatever topic they're speaking on, is that the younger generations, even if they're talking about something niche and like industry related, if it's safety, if it's again very specific, whatever that may be,
Hmm.
they're also open to talk about other things. But when it comes to the older generations, they will stick to the XYZ of this niche topic. And so I think culture wise, I think we're kind of slowly turning into a more open ended conversational aspect of culture and mental awareness and safety. But I think the older generations are still slowly trying to understand and grasp the new people coming in.
Oh man, I'm an older generation, Lexi.
And no, I know, no hate. I think there
No,
are
no, I
some
know.
people that
What I'm going to say is I am, and I am shaped by that, you know, older generation world. But I've worked hard to think about, talk about feelings. I used to not even mention emotional intelligence 10 years ago in my construction training and coaching. I wouldn't use that phrase. I'd say relational intelligence or social intelligence. But I'm starting to say that phrase now. So I think there is, I don't know if you see an evolution. I see it, but you're right. The traditional old guard, typical construction guys, men in particular, and some of the women too, are some tough nuts. And we were raised to be tough nuts and rub a little dirt on it, cry to somebody else, want to get my little violin out, that was the attitude. And that has been hard on mental health. That has not made a positive contribution to mental health, or let's say it, suicide, which you and I both know is a giant issue in construction. Number two in the country here in the US, it's number one in some other, as a death statistic. I believe in the UK and Australia. I don't know if you know that number, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the top reasons people die by suicide. And the generations we're from haven't necessarily made a great contribution to taking away that stigma you mentioned of we can't talk about feelings, but we also have to understand some of us just aren't wired for it. Lexi, what are we supposed to do? What would you recommend that we older guys do? What would you being in a younger generation but working with people of all generations, what would you say to the more traditional men in particular?
I would say that it's okay to still be traditionally taken back. But I would say try to open up just a little bit, even if it's just like as simple as like, "Hey, I saw that you're having like or you're working slower today. Is it because of some personal things or like how are you feeling?" And it's as simple as that. It can be like you be acknowledging whatever you may feel that you see somebody kind of not lacking, but you see that there's a difference within them. Because if you're a good leader,
Yeah.
you can truly see that there's a difference happening even on like a random Tuesday. And so that's like that's your open door. That's what you want to say, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" And make that relationship. And again, it's as simple as that. And it doesn't have to go any further or deeper than whatever it needs to
Hmm.
be, but
Hmm.
that's a really good first step for really anybody.
I like it. Very simple, Lexi. Do you think that attitude and some of the lack of awareness or attention to somebody's emotions is connected to safety? Because this podcast is all about safety and culture. Is that attitude, let's call it the old school tough guy, or some call it the man box. I love that phrase, created, I think, by Mark Green, who wrote a book about the man box culture. We sort of put men in this little box, or we put ourselves in this box. But does that man box world impact safety in that not knowing how, and how might that impact safety?
I think this is a great question. So, I do believe that it does impact safety again because if you're just there, and I know that, this is how some people were raised, where you go to work, you do your job, and you come home. Like it was
Yeah,
as simple as that.
yeah.
But now, again, it's a lot about connections, right? Like you want to know that the person next to you is being safe so that nothing happens to you. Because even though if you're being safe, the person next to you, if they're not being safe, it could end up on your plate and something happened to you as well. And you didn't even notice because
Hmm.
again, you're just there to do your job. But if you take the time to at least kind of know somebody, just again, slight interactions. You don't need to know their whole life story. You
Hmm.
don't need to know their pet's name. You don't need to know their parents'
Hmm.
name, but
Hmm.
just those little interactions, I think you could really find the awareness of, hey, someone's having an off day. Let me check on them. And then that again ripple effects into if they are having a bad day, maybe you make their day, or maybe they realize, hey, I do need to like figure out if I can stay or maybe take the day off so that nothing else happens to the rest of the crew.
Hmm. Nice. Wow. That's not real common, Lexi, as you know, but I think it's a potential thing. And you just mentioned to me that you took a little trip to Atlanta to just take some time, enjoy yourselves. You saw what, the aquarium? How was that trip in Atlanta?
It was great. When I usually travel, which I do travel once a month, if that's on personal or
Hmm.
just professional, either
Hmm.
one, I do usually go hiking. This trip wasn't about hiking. This one, I really wanted to interact with the city. I wanted to see the city life. I wanted to see the aquarium, one of the largest aquariums in the US, the whale
Hmm.
sharks and the manta rays.
Hmm.
I also went to the botanical garden. So I guess that was my outdoorsy like trip, even though it wasn't quite hiking, but it was walking through the greenery, experiencing the different flowers, really just interacting with other people that I don't know, and really having a really good time just in the nice 80-degree weather, which here again, it's like 40 degrees. So the sunshine was a nice little piece.
Well, that's so great. You take such good care of yourself. I'm not sure how many of our listeners can afford the time or money to go once a month somewhere and travel or get away from the job, right? Construction work is like dairy farming, right? You gotta be there a lot, but I like that you give yourself such space to enjoy. And great way to enjoy the world and improve our mental health. Go for walks, go see,
Yes.
be in nature, go watch nature. So I think it's part of your own culture you're creating, Lexi, as seems like it's a really strong, positive thing. Is it impacting your health and well-being to do this kind of thing, and how?
It is, yeah. So in 2023, I had a really, really bad year personally. A lot of things were just happening. And I told myself, I think in December of 23, I said, 2024 fresh, we're going to start traveling once a month. Did I have all the funds to do it? No, but I was able to do some research. I have, a credit card that I use for travel. I do
Mhm.
a trusted house sitter program, so I don't have to pay for a hotel or anything. And I think
Nice.
just having the research and doing the research was really helpful on my part to make sure that, financially I was still okay to do it, but also mentally, like I set a goal and I was able to do it. And being outside in nature and experiencing different cultures kind of throughout the US right now, world to come soon, um, it's just been a really great experience for me because I've kind of always lived in the Midwest area.
Hmm.
I know the culture, but I haven't really had those other experiences. And so it's been a really good grounding experience for me to be able to get outside of my comfort zone a little bit.
So awesome, Lexi. I'm wondering if you have a story related to culture where you were part of a change. We talked about some of the patterns of communication that maybe some more traditional people can have, and how some of the younger people are bringing in a different openness to the emotional part of life. and different kinds of conversation. Have you been part of or watched anyone try to change a culture or improve a culture, improve the safety or improve the communication, or maybe have you hired somebody who talks about those themes? Is that something that you have any story or thoughts about?
Yeah, so when I was at AEM, I was the community coordinator. Well, part of my time there was community coordinator. And so we started to implement a community zone. And so at our different events, we'd have a community zone. This was really kind of to let people from all different aspects come to one place that wasn't a specific networking location or like a VIP event where they had to reserve their spot. It was just an open, free flowing location for everyone. And so we
Hmm.
implemented music to, at ConExpo Conag, we did the podcast, the live podcast there. And so people were able to come in and sit on lawn chairs to high top charging tables to regular round tables you would see maybe in a classroom speaker setting. And it was really nice to see generations just kind of come in and have that experience. We also implemented stickers, which was fun, not just for the speakers, but for the community as well. And so, again, it was cool to say, like, other people saying, hey, like, where did you get that sticker? Like, I want that one. Or, hey, do you want to trade? And really build that community because when I think of construction, it's if I were to compare it to the agriculture industry,
Hmm.
agriculture, you live it, you learn it. Construction, I feel like you don't quite live it. You don't like live on a farm, right?
Yeah.
But you learn it. And so I think that's more of like the difference between the two. And so to be able to build that atmosphere is a little bit different than the agriculture atmosphere. So to build that was nice to see that it was actually working. And we actually implemented it at HIMSS this year. And so we did stickers as well, and everyone loved it. And we're hoping to expand that to next year and see what else we can do.
Oh, that's so great. You're a great community builder, Lexi, because you're so positive, you're creative. I love that. The stickers,
Thank
the
you.
places to sit, to kind of make people feel special and to facilitate a common space where people can interact. We're so isolated in our culture. This is one of the problems, and it even happens in construction. Though somebody's on a crew and they're out there, there's still a sense that you're alone. You have your truck, you drive up, you're kind of by yourself a lot. So I love that you have such a focus for community, bringing people together, gathering them. That's a beautiful story. I don't know what else we want to talk about, Lexi. I appreciate your stories. This is a little different of a podcast, but I like it, and I like the things you're talking about have not really been talked about, and I think they're important. So I really like what you're saying. Any final thoughts from you about safety or communication or building community or breaking through some old patterns that don't maybe serve us as well these days? Anything final thoughts you have?
I would just say that it's okay to be a little bit vulnerable. It may be hard to do so, but breaking down those barriers will really help in the long run. And so I hope to see this community thrive and continue to break down those barriers because we're heading in a better direction. And I think just kind of as years pass and generations kind of come in, I think that it will get to a point where it should be as and better than what it is now with the whole mental awareness and suicide prevention. So,
Hmm. Excellent. Love it. So where could people find you, Lexi? Either at Informa Connect or Lispire. Those are the two places you're working. Where could they find you most easily or how?
yeah, I am on LinkedIn, so you can add me there. I'm probably not as active as I would like to be, but
Hmm.
if you message me, I'm pretty responsive, and I'm always happy to connect and really start learning more about more industry things and just having conversations like this about everything. Really, I'm just here as a good conversationalist.
Sure. You are one, Lexi. Thank you. It's been a privilege. It's been an honor. And I wish you the best both at Informa Connect and your own Lispire, your own business. Hope they both blossom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lexi.